Lessons from a Wat. Wat is the Thai word for temple. And the summer before last, I spent about a month as part of a program called Monk for a Month in a temple in Thailand. And I'd like to share some of what I learned about being a monk, about what I learned about myself, and even a little bit about second language acquisition. The program is organized by a group called the Blood Foundation. And they take the money from people like me who join the program and use it to support schools for Burmese refugees. This is a day school for the children. In the evening, they're night school, evening schools for their parents. So it's nice to know you can be doing good while you're working on yourself. A monk's life is pretty tough. You get up at 4 in the morning for chanting that starts at 4:30. And the chanting is in Pali, which is the language the Buddha spoke. And frankly, I found it really frustrating. Because they gave us the script, but sometimes they followed the script and sometimes they didn't. And we had no translation, so we didn't know what we were talking about. But there's an interesting thing. The human mind needs to make meaning out of language. So I live in Japan. I started understanding the Pali in Japanese, even though the Japanese had nothing to do with it. So I'd be chanting arahato, and then hato, that means pigeon. Samma means fish, and sambuddhasa sounds like 3 little pigs. I was just attaching meaning. But then something very interesting happened. In addition to chanting and study and meditation, we were studying the Dhamma, the teachings of the Buddha. And I learned vocabulary there, and I'd start to notice it during the chanting. So we learned nibbana, which is the Pali word for nirvana, and it started to emerge, just like Diane Larson Freeman talks about. Now, after chanting, about 6 in the morning, we would walk alms, collecting alms from the lay people. And people sometimes misunderstand walking alms. It is not begging. Rather, it's a chance for lay people to help the monks and therefore do good deeds. It's kind of like getting karma points. Okay? And we were barefoot out for, say, an hour and a half, rain or shine. And part of that was discipline. Part of it was awareness, because there were rocks and centipedes. And you have to be very, very aware, and that's where mindfulness begins. Monks eat 2 meals a day, breakfast and lunch. You have no solid food afternoon, but you can drink liquids. And I was surprised that many monks are addicted to bad coffee. Powdered coffee. I mean, who would have thought the road to enlightenment would be fueled by powdered, sweet coffee? At the mountain temple, in the city temple, we ate regular Thai food, a lot of curries. The mountain temple, you just put all the food in one bowl and mix it up, because you don't want it to be too good. It's just supposed to sustain life. If it's too good, that can lead to attachment. And learning to avoid attachment is a big part of what we're doing. And this is me when I went in, looking like an average university professor. And I realized for me, hair was a real attachment. I mean, this lip had not seen the sun for like 40 years. And so I went from looking for like a university professor to sort of looking like an aging rock and roller. David Crosby hair, shaved mustache and the beard and the eyebrows. And it was about attachment. And I realized, how can something so superficial be such a big part of my self-image? And then I went from looking like an aging rocker to kind of looking like the guy who sells tires. Or maybe and this is the picture for me that made me think, what am I doing? And it was becoming aware of attachment and how big a thing that was in my own life. And so by the time they got to the rest of my hair, I was okay with it. And I emailed these to my wife, and she emailed back and said, the hair I can get used to, not sure about no beard. But it is okay for monks to have email, just no attachment. But and so after that, I was ordained Semanata, a novice monk, and had the same life that any other monk would have. In Thailand, almost every male becomes a monk for at least a short period of time. So it is very common. It's just this temple did the teaching in English. Most of the time I was at a city temple. The last week or so, I went to a forest temple, which is on top of a mountain. And it was much quieter, and in many ways stricter than the city temple. sanctuary was in a cave, which we shared with a swarm of bees. And so it's interesting, we'd be meditating and these bees are flying all around, and they didn't bother us, and we did not bother them. Because you cannot hurt a bee, you cannot step on an ant, you cannot, summer in Thailand, you cannot slap a mosquito. It's a strict line. And of course there are no other people, no lay people at the top of the mountain, so we didn't walk arms. Instead we did sweeping. 6 in the morning, sweeping, and it was kind of meditation. It was also very practical because scorpions hide under leaves, and so you want to keep the walkways clear. And we did a lot of meditation, including vipassana walking meditation. And it might take 15 minutes to walk from here to the door, and you are aware of every muscle and every movement and every breath, and it's wonderful. There's so much mindfulness, so much awareness, this kind of meditation, and in regular breathing meditation, also vipassana meditation, and the feeling of peacefulness that comes. It's just wonderful. And you have a lot of time to study, and a lot of time to think, and a lot of time to just be in the moment. And it reminds me of the saying from the Buddha, there are only 2 mistakes one can make along the road to truth: not going all the way and not starting. Interested? Inquire with him.